You know how they say stress and anxiety contributes to poor physical health? Welcome to my world.
Do you ever put something very important somewhere very safe and secret and then very forget where you put it?
All the time. In fact, I just found an unopened package of 5-month-old tofu in my fridge. Did not know it was there. So everything's going great over here, guys.
Womp womp. I think my language learning app is giving me carpal tunnel. I guess it's true what they say. Everything good is bad for you.
Have such a good day. Hey world, how are ya? Welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that.
Hello, my friends and foes. How y'all doing out there? Episode
out there?
178, y'all.
178. I'm Sarah, that's Heather.
The show that unpacks the absurdity of everyday life for your entertainment.
Indeed.
Small talk, big talk, and all the talks in between.
Yeah, sometimes we get pretty deep on this show, and sometimes, I don't know, I guess we're kind of always deep on this show. But, we try to keep it lighthearted, and
We try our hardest. Yeah, we do.
Sure do. Yeah. And if you're with us, we're glad to have you. How's everybody doing out there? How are you, Heather?
Oh boy, oh boy. It's been a bit of a week. You know, there's frost on the ground. I know we're going through a bit of a freeze up here. I don't know what it's like down there, but
No, it's frosty. At least this morning it is, yeah.
real frosty. I mean, I probably should have covered some of our plants, but I'm just so stacked all the time, so busy doing a million things that like even important things just fall by the wayside. And yeah, it's just strange because we had a slew of kind of like warm weather. And then all of a sudden, we had this big storm, crazy winds. We had another tree branch fall down, and actually, a guest was coming into the one of the cottages, and he was a regular and a local, and funnily enough, kind of an arborist. It was very bizarre, and it was the day that we actually had the other arborists here, like fixing everything. They had like a second day to like wrap things up and prune our fruit trees and whatever. And so this guy comes in for his stay for 4 days. And I'm not joking. It must have fallen within a half an hour of him pulling down the driveway because we were just out there, like scoping everything out. And then this thing fell. And it was a huge branch from a Sitka spruce that got sort of scathed by the other big spruce that fell down like early January. And the tree next to it lost its integrity because it kind of hit it. And so there's all these branches that are kind of like about to fall, but they're big branches. I mean, they're like mini trees. And so it falls. This guy's like, he was cool. He kind of came to the back of our house, which is really weird. This weird man is like, I'm like riding my exercise bike and this weird man is standing at my back door, which never happens with guests. It kind of freaked me out. But again, I knew him sort of as a regular, but he was able to move the branch. I mean, I really feel like, I don't know, it's, there's a lot of things that you don't feel in the city. When you're in the country, you're really in it. And when there's weather and, there's just constant excitement, I guess. And then later that day, actually the next day, because it fell so close to this telephone wire, pole, and we were scoping it out the day of, and we're like, yeah, it doesn't look like the pole got, hit or anything, but it was super close. And, what do we know? We're no PG&E people. And so the next day I was out, this was yesterday, I was out doing a million things, like trying to keep the ship going, and in another sense, while I've got people back here trying to keep this ship going, felt a little guilty I wasn't around. But that said telephone pole caught fire. I have like video of it. So I'm going to, for all y'all in our Discord, I'm going to send you the video so you can see that it actually is proof that it caught actual fire. And the thing that's crazy is that, my gardener was here and she had this weird sense to go check on, like she left her house and she was going to go check on that area where, some of these branches were coming down, and there she saw it caught fire. She had this weird sense that she had to go out there. She was compelled. And if no one was here, I think it probably could have gotten it to be a bigger fire, honestly. And yeah, just chaos abounds. It's okay. I mean, everything's going to be worked out. We're solving problems like a bunch of banshees over here. But I will say that it has been like last week was very accomplished, and I feel like we kind of didn't have these issues, and then this week it just kind of it's like a seesaw. It's just like one week's good, one other week everything falls apart. And you know, we got this fancy new water system, so I mean, this is all sort of hurts my brain and grinds my gears, but I'll try to explain it very simply. You know, we got this huge, you know, water pump replaced about 2 weeks ago. The water people are great. Like, you know, they're not screwing us over or anything. It's not about that. It's just that something weird is going on with our electrical. So like the pump works, but then if the power goes out, our generator is triggered, but then we have to manually turn it off when it's supposed to turn off on its own. The generator people can't figure it out because it seems like a deeper issue that's involved with like electrical, something deeper that we don't understand, that nobody seems to understand. And so it's just this ongoing problem where we think we solved it. Everything's back up and running, but we don't have any water right now because yesterday when everything happened with PG&E with the pole, they're doing something because the same water issue happened when they came out last time. So we think that they're turning something off or on or flicking a switch that is doing something to our system where now we have no water. We have no water. We don't even have a little bit of water pressure. We have like, I had to wash my face in, you know, semi-boiled water out of a bowl this morning. I think there's times like this, especially through the winter, and last winter wasn't this bad. Sure, we had some power outages or whatever, but where I'm like, okay, is this normal? Is this a normal country living kind of thing? Because I'm not cool with this. Like, it's cool to have a little bit of this happen every winter. I get it. We're off the grid. But like, this is ridiculous. And I do think this is a bigger problem. It's a bigger can of worms that we just have to get to the bottom of. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of Heather's at the end of her tether here. I'm too busy to deal with this shit. I'm kind of missing the city, and not that there aren't problems in the city, but I just feel like
different problems.
And you know, I know that our infrastructure in California has kind of fallen by the wayside. There's some issues with that, which is partially the problem. There's companies that monopolize, like we have a company up here that monopolizes the generator business, you know, so like you try to reach out to a different smaller generator business to see if you can get a part, but they're like, yeah, you got to call them. They own the whole area. So then you're screwed. And anyway, enough about that. I just, it's been a little bit of a dumpster fire, a telephone pole fire, if you will. And one thing I wanted to mention really quick, because I wanted to get your opinion, Sarah, because this was sort of something I was thinking about. Just the way we sort of deconstruct social etiquette, like in the modern world, and how we communicate, and it's changing constantly. And like, I don't do this all that often. I usually, with like my friends that I talk to on the phone, converse on the phone, whether we, you know, FaceTime or just a regular phone call, you know, usually we kind of set something up, or, hey, I'll call you tomorrow morning, or, you know, that kind of thing. I have a couple friends who do a rogue, like, reach out, which is fine because it's like what they do. We've talked about this before. I cold called a couple people I haven't talked to in a while over the weekend, and then, you know, it's this whole thing. I know people are busy, they don't pick up, it's fine. It's funny because it feels so daring these days. You know, it's like, I'm gonna call this person, and then, you know, the person, you know, maybe thinks it's some kind of emergency, something's wrong, and it's really jarring. Like, why is she calling me right now on Sunday morning? You know, it's like this whole thing. It's like this weird, I mean, I'd love to unpack this on another show. But I just find it fascinating how things have changed, you know, and maybe because we're 80s girls, we still have fond memories of analog, you know, telephones and whatnot. I just find it to be a fascinating thing to discuss. So maybe we'll table it for now, but I know you feel the same way, Sarah. And
I do. Yeah. Well, I also, there are, and yes, we have kind of talked about this before on previous shows, but there are a few people who just are phone call people. So when they call me, I'm either available or I'm not.
Sure.
But I'm not, even if I'm like, oh, I can't answer right now, like if I see their name, I don't think something's wrong necessarily.
Yeah.
But most people, if they were to call me out of the blue and they hadn't texted me 15 minutes
Like a
before and
heads
said,
up.
hey, are you around? I want to call.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I'm always like, because I'm a worrywart about everything anyway. But because it's like you have so many ways to get a hold of me. So the phone
Like,
call
why
is
did
like,
you choose the phone call?
even if I want to talk to them, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I also think about, when I was in high school, well, and even younger, but when I was in high school, at some point my parents were sick of my friends calling me at all hours of the night. So I got my own phone line. But before that, you come home and there's a little notepad by
Yeah.
the kitchen
Yeah.
phone, and my mom has a list of who called
Which
while I
is
was
so
gone.
exciting.
There are no cell phones. If I'm gone, I can't answer a phone call. Nobody knows where I am, kind of thing. Nobody can track me. There's no find my friends, none of that stuff. And that was just the way it was.
Yeah.
And if you really like, I don't know, I mean, in my case, if I was like hoping some boy would call me, then I'd be like, I can't leave.
Yeah,
Gotta stay by the
totally.
phone, because what if he calls and
You're
I
gonna
miss
miss
it
the
and then my
call.
life is over,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And, we all adapt.
Yeah,
we all
do.
adapt.
We do indeed. And yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I will specifically choose a movie from the 70s or 60s just to like not have a movie with cell phones, just to like remember what it's like, to live in that
Yeah.
world. And not that I really appreciate the modern world. I would say that I'm a pretty modern chick, but there's something so special about. Yeah, I mean, I used to yak hours and hours and hours with my girlfriends, in high school on my Snoopy phone, like it's just, there's something so like charming about that. But nowadays, there's other ways, like I've this one friend in particular who I cold called this weekend. We mostly communicate these days on Marco Polo, and I don't Marco Polo a lot of people. There's only a couple people who seem to be into it, at least in my circles. And that seems to appease us. It's we catch up in that way, and there's a lag. It's obviously not real time, but I have friends who like high five me on Duolingo, and like that kind of thing where you feel like it's a very, very like loose connection, but it's something where you're like, oh, someone knows what I'm doing or knows what I'm up to, or
Yeah.
there's all sorts of ways which can be really fun. But anyway, Sarah, I know you've had a bit of a week too. Maybe it's the I like to blame it on the rain, blame it on the stars, on the moon cycles. We like to do that here on Have Such a Good Day.
There have been a couple of nights, and yes, it's been pretty chilly here. In fact, we're in a freeze warning, which is, again, for anybody who lives in actual cold weather, it's not that cold. It's, we're talking like maybe high 20s Fahrenheit, and that it never gets any colder than that. And that's pretty rare. That'll happen like 3 times in a winter.
Yeah.
But we happen to be just in a little bit of a cold spell. And, where I live, it's often foggy, even if it's going to be real nice and sunny. We just have, it's just the way that the western part of the county in California that I live in kind of works.
Yeah.
So many mornings are foggy, but it doesn't really, the fog doesn't come in until, well, I don't really know when it comes in, but well after I wouldn't be gazing at the stars anyway. But there have been a couple nights that are so clear and, they're cold, but the stars are out. And I love looking at them. And sometimes when I'm laying in bed and I look up, through my skylight, which is right above me, and I see stars, I'm like, gosh, that's so cool.
And you don't see that in the city, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, it's a lot harder to, that's for sure. But yeah, I mentioned stress and anxiety at the top of the show, and that is just, we all have stress and anxiety on some level. Mine manifests in sleeplessness. I mean, sometimes I can be stressed and anxious, in the waking hours, but I have the hardest time to get through that when I'm trying to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And especially because my health has been, compromised lately. I've been trying to sleep a lot more than usual. 8 hours is like, I mean, minimum. 10 would be better for me. Sometimes I just can't carve out that much time for myself, but my body still really wants it. And I've had, oh gosh, it's so bad right now, even as we're recording this funny kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it like a headache because it's more of like a pinprick behind my left eye. And this is very unusual for me. I don't get this pain ever.
Yeah.
And I have to assume it's just lack of sleep.
Yeah.
And maybe stress just, I don't know. Now it's getting to that point. Maybe it's some weird post-chemo thing that I just haven't had until now. It's sort of impossible to say. However, the reason that this stresses me out, and it's painful and I don't like it, but it also stresses me out for a very particular reason. And that is many years ago, and some of you who have kind of, I don't know, followed me in the public
interwebs.
stuff that I've shared are familiar with the story. But many years ago, I had an issue with my brain. I had a parasite in my brain. And because of that, I had a seizure and I was hospitalized and very scary. And they thought I had epilepsy. It was something else. The whole thing is well behind me, thankfully, but very scary at the time. And the day before I had that seizure, I only had one, but it was very out of the blue. Day before I had the seizure, I'm driving with my friend, Martin Sargent. He was in the passenger seat.
Marty.
We were on the freeway because we were going somewhere, we were going fast, right? And I'm saying to him, God, I've got this really weird pinprick type ache behind my right eye. So it's a different eye right now. But, and he was sort of like, I don't know. I don't tell you. And I'm like, I don't either. I've never even felt this before. It was obviously seizure related. The next day that happened, thankfully I was not operating a vehicle. But can you imagine if that seizure had happened while I was driving like 65 miles an hour? I mean, if I think about it too much, even today, I'm just like, I'm so freaked out.
I wonder how often that
could
happens, where someone actually has a seizure while they're driving. Like, what are the stats?
Well, I will tell you that it happens often enough that once I did have a seizure, my California driver's license was pulled. Not that I wanted to drive anyway, but you cannot be behind a wheel until you are stabilized.
Yeah.
And that stabilization took a while. I mean, I didn't have a driver's license. Thankfully, I lived in a city, so I had a lot of other options. Public transportation, taxi, friend picks me up, or I walk. But if that had happened in more of a rural area, man, I don't know. But and I didn't even, I didn't want my license back until I felt comfortable.
Sure.
And anyway, this is all. I think the pain behind my left eye is really just. It's
Probably
a culmination
stress.
of many things. Yeah, there's a whole thing going on.
Is it the same pain, or do you recall that? I mean,
it's the same pain, but it's the other eye.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's very specific.
Human body is very strange.
It's very strange, and I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna get over it. But I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know how to describe it, but I get freaked out about stuff like this because I have experience with it actually being a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take my extra strength Tylenol once we finish recording the show, and I'm sure I'll be fine. And that's just, it's been a bit of an anxious week just for so many reasons. And I am going to ride the wave, and next week will be better.
It will.
You hear that, people? I am putting it out into the world.
Put it out there, manifest it.
That's right.
It's going to be
Speaking it
such
into
a good
existence.
week. Yes.
Next week is going to rock.
Yeah, it really is, Sarah. It is. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. I really can. And but I understand that anxiety because I think as we get older too, we get a little more anxious about our health and like little triggers, like, you have a weird headache, you have a weird pain. Like right now I have my tennis elbow, which is what I think it is back, or I have carpal tunnel. I'm not really clear on it. I haven't like gone to get it diagnosed or anything, but basically like my wrist to my elbow, is really sore. And like the bone of my elbow. And, the first thing I think is, gosh, I mean, do I have some weird, some weird disease, or I don't know. And we tend to, especially with the internet, it's easy to go down these rabbit holes about our health. There's all kinds of information on there. There's all kinds of misinformation. And, each body is different. Everybody, it's not one size fits all. And I'm noticing more and more the nuances of my body. It's not just, like I'm trying to get to the bottom of why I have so many bad allergies now, worse than I ever have. And I'm like, is it because I'm in Northern California, and could it be mold? Just kind of looking back into all these patterns that I've had, where I had zero allergies until I turned 42. And then now I have this slew of, where I might have like a really bad allergy day where antihistamines don't even work, and I'm kind of down for the count more often now. And so I'm like, that's a hard thing to figure out. It's like, so I'm spending some time with a kind of a naturopath, trying to get to the bottom of what it is that's triggering my histamines. And while I'm doing research, you realize everything triggers histamines. I mean, sitting on the couch is, you're sitting on dust mites most likely. And, a lot of foods are histamine triggering, even if you're not allergic to them. So yeah, I mean, my point is our bodies are complex, and there's a lot of those flukes. You have like a pain in your eye that'll just go away and it'll never come back. And it's like, what caused that? We may never know. I just think it's, we're complicated machines, and I feel you. The anxiety is real, and I hope y'all out there are not feeling all the anxiety, but, there's good moments too. It's not that we're, sitting here with our heads in our hands, anxious every second of the day. There's wonderful things like the incredible lentil soup I made this week. Oh, it was so good, Sarah. I got to give you the recipe. It's so
Please
easy.
do.
So easy.
That sounds good. I'm
And
a
so
lentil
tasty.
fan.
Me too.
I'm a
Who
lentil
isn't?
fan. In fact, I have a bunch of dried lentils in my kitchen right now, and I keep thinking, why don't I make something?
Okay, I'm sending you this recipe, Sarah, because it is the easiest thing to do. It takes like 20 minutes. And if any of y'all out there don't like lentils, I'd like to hear from you, because that's weird, but that's okay. You be you. I'm just like, what do you not like about them? They're just so likable. They're likable little beans. And they're
I
so
love
full
a
of
good
protein.
lentil. I love a good lentil. Or if you have soup recipes, doesn't have to be lentil, send them our way. Hi@havesuchagoodday.com. I love, like, one of my favorite things is if someone, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have that many cool recipes. I mean, I can read a recipe. I can make something from a recipe. But there are, every so often, someone will, we're talking about food or something, and I'll go, oh yeah, you just, I made this the other night, and they go, wow, that sounds so good. Can you send me the recipe? And it's like, it's kind of just in my head, but I guess I could write it down.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway,
Yeah, I had the same thing. I tend to improvise a lot. I will definitely do recipes here and there, and then it sort of augments my improvising. Like I'll be like, ooh, when I made that recipe, I could do like a version of that in my own style.
Sure.
But I kind of threw together this like kind of almost like a pad see ew without the egg, with like chicken and like broccolini. It was so good with these kind of egg, like flat noodles.
Yum,
It was
Heather.
delicious. I was like, damn. And I had some people over, and they were like, this is really good. How did you make it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, and I just explained, I had to like, I had I'm really experimenting a lot with, I have a mortar and pestle, which I didn't always have one. I got one in Iowa of all places last year. Very random. Don't ask. But I use it a lot now, and I'm really experimenting more with different herbs and spices, and I have like some combos where I'm like, okay, if I'm making something Asian, I use turmeric, like umami, some red pepper, and maybe some cumin or whatever it is that it just flavor notes that I like myself personally, and then I'll embellish, and like the next time I'll be like, ooh, you know what, it was missing this, and then it'll get better and better. Like I'm iterating basically, and it's really fun, and I'm not against recipes. other than the fact that, the recipe button is a godsend. But jump to recipe button, that is. And, I do love learning new things because I can get stuck in my ruts where I'm like, well, this is the spice thing that I use for this. And then I do this. And then I kind of am like, I'm tired of my own food. So you kind of have to keep expanding, and that using recipes helps that a lot. Man, speaking of sort of, I don't know, domestic life, the old humdrum Sarah Lane, feeling it a little bit lately just because, we talk about routines a lot and how much we need routine and we need organization, structure, and that kind of thing. And then there's times when that wonderful thing called routine turns into the humdrum, where you're like, oh God, I need to break out of my routine. We're never totally content. But this whole extreme organization movement, I feel like is everywhere. The Marie Kondo thing kind of started with her. Well, I don't know if it started with her, but she was kind of a big mainstream, figure to kind of help organize your home and that kind of thing. And
right, yeah, get rid of anything that isn't bringing you joy.
Yeah, yes,
that
basically,
kind of
it's supposedly maybe the key to a happier life. And like lately, I'm like, is it? I don't know, because see, I am I don't know if you want to call it a victim, but I have days where I really get off on cleaning and organizing something. And I have mentioned recently that I've been trying to tackle spaces that I haven't even touched since I've moved in. One being the garage. I have a couple very large cabinets in the kitchen that I have not touched in the last, because it was all my dad's stuff. It's like cookbooks, old liquor, that's like totally covered in dust, like, cream de menthe and some bourbon from like the 1970s and like what do you call it? One of those beer boots, those big glass boots, like Heineken boot that you put beer in, like a whole set of those, things where
Just
I'm like,
stuff you don't really need in your kitchen.
I don't really need it, but it's also,
Forever.
there's something nostalgic about some of it that I'm just like, I'm not really ready. It's like an upper shelf, so I can avoid it. But you have to get up on a little ladder, and I'm going to have to go in there and take everything out, clean out the cabinet, figure out what I'm doing. How long does this alcohol last? I guess forever. I don't know. And so like I will have days, I'm not like this every day, because some days I just completely avoid it, most days. But then I have days where I'm like, I got to tackle this. This is driving me crazy. And then I feel this euphoric, almost, I would even go to say like, sort of that dopamine rush when I'll clean something out and, you finish it. Like like I said, I did my garage. I got a couple like racks, like really sturdy industrial racks to put all my tools, because everything's just like scattered everywhere and I can never find, like a trowel, or I can't find something. So this was great. I mean, this was like, I was so like, I felt really proud of myself, It was such a silly
it's
thing.
like a cleanse of sorts.
It is a cleanse.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I will be moving from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know when, but the house is going to get sold, and pretty sure whoever buys it isn't going to buy me. And my little, and my furry family, for me to, still live here, and it's time anyway. But because of that, I've got this, there's a weight on my shoulders a bit. Part of that is, where the hell am I moving? And it's fun to fantasize about moving to some crazy place just because it's like, hey, while I'm still alive, I can go wherever I want.
Sure.
But there are only, it's funny, I have a few friends who live in Amsterdam, but one of them is like, why don't you move to Amsterdam? And I'm like, okay, that's insane. And she's like, it's not that insane. I did it. She used to live in San Francisco as well. And, you don't have to quarantine your dog, because when they had moved, they had a dog who's, I don't know, the rules are different in the Netherlands than they are some other places. I'm like, but okay. I don't, the idea of that is so fun in like a fantastical way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make any sense. But I do like to just say, okay, well, it doesn't make sense, but let's just look at real estate. When I say real estate, it's like an apartment that isn't expensive. It's not like I would buy anything anywhere. But and then I start to get like crazy, like, what if I moved to Patagonia? I don't even really want to move to Patagonia, but it's like,
But what if I did?
There's probably an apartment for rent somewhere there that I would think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then, and then I'm on Google Street View looking at weird towns. Some friends of mine recently, who also used to live in San Francisco, moved to Bentonville, Arkansas recently.
Oh, really?
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Never even heard of Bentonville.
Well, if you know anything about Walmart, that is where their headquarters are.
Oh, wow.
So the Bentonville, I mean, it's a town. It's not some huge city, but it is the Walmart town.
Wow.
And one of them works there, and that's where they moved. And so, and this is something like I'll probably go visit them. But they were like, Sarah, you would not believe how cheap things are if you're used to living in an expensive city like San Francisco. Even stuff that you just wouldn't think about. It's like,
Yep.
A nice dinner is like not that expensive because we're so used to everything being like so expensive. I mean, if you live in New York City, it's going to be more than San Francisco, but you get my drift.
But we're used to those big cities that are generally pretty expensive.
Yeah. So a lot to think about. But to your point about getting organized, as I'm sitting in my garage, which is my studio, which has, this is it's a big garage. It's not like super full of my stuff, but my stuff has lots of room to scatter around.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone through, I feel like even when I do this regularly, like get rid of these cables that you'll never use.
I did that recently. I threw away a whole bag.
Yeah, like get rid of 5 of them.
If you haven't used them in a year, I mean, do you feel like you'll ever, you know what I mean? It's like that's
No,
sort of
no.
my reasoning.
Totally. And there's always stuff to whittle down. And it's always good, in my opinion, to do that before you have to pack them up and do it later.
I agree.
So-
and yeah, I totally agree.
And yet I look around and I go, I'll do it later.
I know. You have to be in the mood though. Just wait till a day. There'll be a day. 'Cause I'm not always in the mood, but I did one more like clean out of my office. It was sort of my last push because I had been cleaning out like all the old papers that my dad was keeping, like stuff that I didn't need. And I want to turn this business over to QuickBooks, get it more digital. But I wanted to pare everything down to like exactly what I need. For taxes, you can throw away 7 years back. It was the other day. So like when I did this last clean, I did it because I have to do taxes. For me, I personally tend to organize before I have to do a big job because it's a part procrastination of doing said job. And then the other part of it is it clears my head to do said job. And so I knew that I needed to know where everything was in the office. And so if I did another clean out, I'd be so organized to do taxes that it would be easier. And so I threw away like 2 large boxes of, well, we're going to burn it because it's all like tax forms and things that you probably want to shred. But I only have like a small shredder and I'm not going to go to Office Max and do it. Whatever. We're going to use our little outdoor fireplace. But it was so therapeutic to get rid of old tax forms and just like, kind of getting into a frenzy about it almost, and where I'm like, what can I do next? Like sort of seeing flaws everywhere. That's like sort of a flaw in itself that I just have to fix right away. But I think part of our obsession with this organization, trend is I think the world feels a little more out of control maybe. And partially it's because of technology has made our world like easier, but also more complicated. And then also like maybe, in like, I don't know, for me, when my brain feels chaotic, if I organize, it calms my brain. It like makes me feel like my brain is less chaotic and all that makes sense to me. So I have friends who are doing so well with this organizational career. They're writing books. I mean, a good friend of mine who's just made a successful business out of it. And that's awesome. I almost want to create a, I don't know, be play devil's advocate and create like a disorganization trend, and it's going to be awesome. It's like throw everything on the floor so you can go on treasure hunts every day. It'll be super fun.
Just live in
Just
disarray.
live it up, like F it all. And I think it'll be so therapeutic. Yeah. But one more thing I wanted to say.
I can't even like have like a pair of shoes that aren't in the place where the shoes are supposed to be in my house. Like I would be like walking in circles like the shoes.
I know. I'm kidding, sort of, but maybe there's something there. But then the problem with this maximizing to the max of organization is you end up buying things for your things, and that's what I'm noticing. Because when I did my garage redo, I bought racks. I bought like these shoe racks for like our boots and galoshes for the garage. You know, you buy bins, you buy baskets. It's just like this other like hamster wheel of like consumerism that I don't love. I don't know. What do you guys think? Email us, hi@suchagooddday.com. We've unpacked a lot today, and we really want to hear your thoughts as always.
As always. So yes, hi@havesuchagooddday.com. Send those emails. Also, if you would like to directly support the show, you know, Heather and I just do our ramblin' rambles, and we love that you stick with us.
The Ramblin' Radio.
If you do want to directly support the show, meaning you get a show that doesn't have ads, of course, the show is always free. But if you'd like to become a patron, patreon.com/havesuchagooddday is where you find out more about that. You know, $1 a month, really. If you can part with $5 per month, and some of you already do, and we thank you so much. Some of you do a lot more than that, and we thank you so much. We thank anybody at any level. Just listening warms our hearts. But the $5 and up level will get you into our Discord. We have little discussions in there all the time with our fellow Discorders. Shout out to y'all. You're a lot of fun, and yeah, that's that.
That's that. And you know, spread the word about Have Such a Good Day. Tell your neighbor, tell your grandma, tell your book club ladies or gents about
sirs.
the show, and you know, we'd love to have more of you.
We would. The
more, the merrier.
This is we're a proud little show. Heather and I we really just do this for fun. So it's a lot of fun to know that other people are getting something out of it.
It's really fun. Actually, just the other day, I was telling someone at this cafe, she's one of the owners of this little coffee shop down the street. She's becoming a friend. And wait, what's the name of your podcast? And then people will be like, have a good day. Have a great day. No. Have such a good day. Or have like people are like coming up with these cool other versions of like the name of
have
our
a really
show.
great, I hear that as well. And I go, well, you're close.
Close enough.
The sentiment is the same.
Just Google two wacky ladies talking about the absurdity of everyday life, and you'll find us. Actually, I don't know if that's true, but
I've never done that. Maybe. I don't know. It's some SEO thing maybe on our website. By the way, if we do have a website, havesuchagooddday.com. And, you know, I guess maybe people go there and listen to a new episode instead of subscribing. That's cool. I mean, we make that available to you. But if you do subscribe, even if you don't use Apple Podcasts, iTunes is a really great way to get our stuff surfaced. I know everybody says that, but it's true. If you listen to other podcasts, people are always saying, just if you can just write a nice review, if you like the show. You know, it's not mandatory, but 5-star ratings get you seen by more folks who are just kind of looking for something to listen to. So anyway, you do you, everybody, and we will love you all the same.
We.
I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I've had too much coffee.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap this baby up. And Sarah, it's always a pleasure.
It is. And always a pleasure to you too.
We'll be talking offline.
We'll be talking offline, and let's hope no telephone poles catch fire on your property.
Thanks.
That is not good. When you told me
like
that
dumpster
yesterday,
fire,
I was like,
telephone fire.
Yeah, just a whole thing. All right. Well, until next time. Wherever you may be in the world, whenever you may be listening to this, we hope you have such a good day. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Heather.
Goodbye.
Wait.